Before the flood, before Noah, before everything we know, there was a world unlike any other, a world of giants, of fallen angels, of forbidden knowledge, a time when mankind stood on the edge of godhood and destruction. But why was an entire civilization wiped from existence? What secrets did they take to the depths? And most importantly, could it happen again? The truth has been hidden for centuries, but today we reveal the forgotten story of the world before the flood. You don't want to miss what's coming next, so before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because history is about to repeat itself, and you'll want to be ready. Now, let's begin. In the beginning, there was only the void, a dark, formless expanse, endless and silent, then a voice, a command that shattered the nothingness. Let there be light. And from that moment, light pierced the abyss, revealing a world being shaped by unseen hands. The heavens stretched wide, the waters gathered, and the land rose, breathing with new life. The first dawn broke over a world untouched, a paradise yet to be marred by sin. God, in his infinite wisdom, crafted everything in perfect order. The sky, the oceans, the towering mountains, all in harmony. And in the heart of this creation, he formed a garden, a place unlike any other, the Garden of Eden. Lush beyond imagination, its trees bore fruits that never withered, its rivers shimmered with golden hues, and at its center stood the tree of life, a symbol of eternal communion with the divine. It was here, in this sacred ground, that the first of mankind was formed. From the dust of the earth Adam awoke, the breath of the Almighty filling his lungs. He was unlike the beasts, for in him burned the divine spark, the gift of reason, of free will, of dominion. Yet even in paradise something was missing. From his very being, God shaped another, a companion, a counterpart. Eve, together they walked in the garden, untainted, knowing no shame, no fear. They were stewards of creation, rulers of a world in perfect peace. But peace, as history tells, is fragile. At the edge of the garden, a whisper slithered through the leaves, a voice, ancient, cunning, hungry. The serpent spoke not in threats, but in promises. Did God really say? The fruit, forbidden yet desirable, gleamed like fire in Eve's hand. And in that single moment the world shifted. A bite, a realization, a fracture in the divine order. Adam and Eve, once clothed in innocence, now trembled beneath the weight of knowledge. They saw their nakedness, they felt fear, and when the voice of God called out to them, they hid, hiding not just from him, but from the truth of their fall. Judgment followed. Paradise was lost. The gate to Eden sealed. Mankind was cast into the world beyond, a world wild, untamed, and unknown. But even as they stepped into exile, a promise lingered in the air, a prophecy of one who would one day crush the serpent's head. And so began the world of men, the world before the flood. Adam and Eve stepped beyond the gates of paradise, their feet pressing into the wild earth of an unfamiliar world. The air, once fragrant with Eden's untouched perfection, was now heavier, tinged with the scent of dust and struggle. They were no longer sheltered, no longer protected by the divine presence that had once walked with them. The ground, once fertile and yielding, resisted their touch. Yet life persisted. In time, Eve bore children, Cain and Abel, the first sons of mankind. Cain, the elder, was strong-willed, a man of the earth, toiling in the soil to bring forth crops. Abel, the younger, was different, quiet, contemplative, a keeper of flocks. Their offerings to the Almighty revealed the first signs of a rift that had begun within the human soul. Abel's sacrifice, given in faith, was accepted. Cain's, born of duty rather than devotion, was not. And in that moment, bitterness took root. The first sin outside Eden was not theft, not adultery, but murder. Cain's rage turned to bloodlust, and in a field where only the wind bore witness, he struck down his own brother. A cry echoed through the heavens. "Where is your brother, Abel?" Cain's answer was cold, his heart already hardened. "Am I my brother's keeper?" Judgment fell once more. A mark was placed upon Cain, and he was cast out, cursed to wander, a man without a home. But he did not disappear into the wilderness. No, he built something new. He built the first city. Here, in this shadowed age of early humanity, civilization began, not as a gift, but as a response to guilt. Cain's descendants spread, forging tools, building homes, and crafting music to fill the silence of exile. They tamed fire-shaped stone, and in their hands the world bent to their will. But something else grew in these cities, a hunger, a thirst, a rebellion against the divine. As generations passed, men turned away from the Creator. They sought power, strength, immortality. They fashioned idols, whispered secrets in the dark, and named themselves kings over the lands they had conquered. The world was changing. One name, above all, would be remembered from this era: Lamech, the first to break the sacred bond of marriage, the first to take multiple wives. He did not just follow Cain's footsteps, he embraced them. He sang of his own violence, boasting that his vengeance was greater than any before him. The world was becoming something new, something darker. But not all had turned away. Far from the corruption, another bloodline thrived. The descendants of Seth, Adam's third son, walked a different path. They honored the Creator, and among them one man stood apart. His name was Enoch. Enoch was unlike the men of his time. While others pursued wealth and power, he sought wisdom. He spoke of things unseen, of the realms beyond mortal understanding. He walked with God, and in return the heavens whispered their secrets to him. He foresaw what others refused to see. The world was spiraling toward destruction. The violence of men was growing unchecked. Cities were rising, but so were altars to false gods. Blood stained the streets, and the cries of the innocent were silenced by the will of the strong. And then a presence came: the Watchers. They were not men, nor were they gods. They were the sons of heaven, sent to observe, to guide from a distance. But they did not remain distant. They looked upon the daughters of men and saw that they were beautiful. And so they descended from the heights, stepping into the world of mortals. What began as fascination turned into desire. The Watchers took human wives, breaking the barriers between the divine and the earthly. And from these unions came the Nephilim, giants, warriors, creatures of immense strength and unnatural power. Legends would later speak of these beings as kings, as demigods. Their names would be whispered in awe and in fear. They ruled over men, shaping the world with their might. But their hearts were dark, corrupted by the same hunger that had overtaken their fathers. With the knowledge of the Watchers, mankind advanced beyond what should have been possible. They learned the secrets of the heavens, the ways to harness the stars, the forging of weapons, the arts of war. But with these gifts came ruin. War consumed the earth. Kingdoms rose and fell in blood. Men ceased to call upon the name of the Creator, and in his place they worshipped the fallen. They built temples, erected idols, offered sacrifices that stained the altars red. The world before the flood was unlike any age that followed. It was a world of wonders, a world of horrors. They showed women the arts of seduction, the painting of eyes, the enchanting of the soul. And with each lesson, the world sank deeper into darkness. The Creator looked upon the earth, and what he saw was not his creation. It was something else, something monstrous, and so judgment began. The world burned with excess. The cries of the weak were drowned in the songs of the mighty. There was no righteousness left, no goodness untainted, except for one, Noah, a man different from the rest, a man whose blood was untainted, whose heart still belonged to the one who'd formed the earth. He saw what was happening. He saw the horror that the world had become. And one night, in the silence of the darkness, a voice called his name. Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me. The voice of the Creator, the same voice that had spoken light into existence, now spoke judgment. I will destroy the earth, but you will be saved. Noah trembled, and then the command, build an ark. The world didn't yet know rain. The sky had never opened its gates to drown the land. The earth was watered from below, mist rising from the depths. And yet Noah obeyed. He began to build, wood upon wood, beam upon beam, a vessel not for sailing but for survival. And as he built, the world laughed. Look at the madman, they jeered. What is this foolish thing you construct? They did not know. They did not understand. But soon they would. As the ark neared completion, something stirred beyond the realm of man. The Watchers, the fallen ones, looked upon their creation and saw the fate that awaited them. They knew the flood was coming. They knew judgment was near. They had one chance to plead. And so they sent their leader Semjaza and the greatest among them Azazel to speak before the divine. Enoch, the man who had walked with God and been taken, now stood in the presence of the Watchers. They fell before him, these once mighty beings, and begged. Plead for us, they cried. Speak to the Most High, that he may spare us and our sons. But the answer came like fire. You shall have no peace. The Watchers wept. They had seen the heavens, they had walked among the stars, and now they were doomed. Azazel, the one who had taught mankind the art of war, was bound. Chains of fire wrapped around him, dragging him into the depths, where he would be imprisoned until the final judgment. The rest would soon follow. But the Nephilim, the children of the Watchers, could not be spared. The flood would come, and it would wipe them from existence. Noah worked tirelessly, his hands rough from labor, his back bent beneath the weight of the divine command. The ark stood completed, a monolith in the middle of a world that did not yet understand its doom. And then the impossible happened. From the forests, from the plains, from the mountains and the caves they came. The beasts of the earth, the birds of the sky, the creatures of the deep, all walked, crawled, and flew to the ark. Pairs of two, led by something unseen, something greater than instinct. Men watched in silence. Their laughter faded. Unease gripped their hearts. Something was coming, something they could not stop. Noah called his family, his wife, his sons, their wives. They stepped into the ark. And then, the final moment. The sky had darkened beyond anything seen before. Thick, churning clouds rolled over the land like an advancing army, their bellies swollen with fury. The earth groaned as if mourning what was to come. Then the first drop fell, a single tear from the heavens, landing silently upon the dust, then another and another. Then, without warning, the sky shattered open. Water, not in gentle streams, but in roaring torrents, cascaded from the heavens. The floodgates of the deep burst forth, geysers of water, exploding from beneath the ground. Rivers swelled, lakes overflowed, and the sea surged inward, consuming the land. In mere moments, the world was unrecognizable. At first, the people laughed. "It's just rain," they said. Then the water reached their ankles, then their knees, and suddenly the laughter turned to terror. The people screamed as they ran, their feet slipping in the rising mud. Mothers clutched their children. Fathers fought against the currents, but there was nowhere to go. The mighty cities, once symbols of power and defiance, crumbled as the floodwaters smashed against their walls. Temples dedicated to false gods were swallowed, their idols dragged into the abyss. The Nephilim, those once mighty giants who had ruled the world, roared in defiance as the waves reached their chests, their necks, until finally they too were gone. Kings, warriors, priests, all who had stood against the Creator, drowned in the waters of judgment. Some tried to climb the tallest mountains, believing they could escape the wrath. But the water rose higher and higher, until the peaks themselves vanished beneath the waves. Inside the great wooden vessel, Noah and his family sat in silence. The rain pounded against the hull like a war drum. Outside, the world was being torn apart. They could hear the cries of the dying, the distant roar of collapsing cities, the final screams of a civilization that had refused to listen. And then, silence. The water had claimed it all. For 40 days and 40 nights, the storm raged without mercy. The ark, lifted by the flood, drifted upon the endless sea. There was no land, no life beyond its walls, only the water and the sky. Noah's family waited, prayed, until finally the rain stopped. The clouds, so thick and oppressive, began to break apart, allowing the first slivers of sunlight to pierce the gloom. The flood had done its work. The old world was gone, and a new world, silent, cleansed, waiting, lay beneath the endless waters. For months the ark drifted. There was no way to know where they were, no landmarks, no stars, no horizon. Then, one morning, something changed. The ark lurched, tilting slightly to one side. It had struck something solid, a mountaintop. The waters were receding. Noah opened a small window, allowing fresh air to flow in. Below them, glimpses of land began to emerge. Jagged peaks, broken valleys, the remains of a drowned world. He released a raven, watching as it soared into the sky. It circled the ark for days, finding nowhere to land. Then he sent out a dove. It returned, exhausted, unable to find a resting place. Noah waited 7 more days. Then he sent the dove again. This time it came back carrying something in its beak, an olive leaf. The ark finally came to rest on the slopes of Mount Ararat. The waters had receded enough for the land to dry. Noah opened the door, stepping out into the new world. The air was fresh, washed clean by the flood. The ground was soft beneath his feet, as if the earth itself had been reborn. The animals, one by one, emerged from the ark, shaking off the last remnants of the storm. They scattered in all directions, returning to the wild lands that had waited for them. Noah stood in silence, taking in the vast emptiness before him. The old world was gone. There were no cities, no towers, no monuments of the fallen, just wilderness. And yet, despite the destruction, hope remained. Noah built an altar, the first altar of the new world, and there he made a sacrifice, thanking the Creator for sparing him and his family, and in response the sky changed. A great arc of color stretched across the heavens, the first rainbow, and then the voice of the Almighty. "Never again will I destroy the earth with a flood. This is my covenant with you and your descendants." Noah's family, the last of mankind, stood upon the new earth, knowing that they were the beginning of everything that would come. The world would be repopulated, nations would rise, kings would rule, civilizations would flourish once more. But the story of the flood would never be forgotten, and in the shadows, in the ruins beneath the waves, the past waited, because some things never stay buried forever. Though the hearts of men may turn to evil again, the waters will never rise to consume them. This bow in the sky will be a sign for all generations to come. Noah's heart swelled with awe. His family, his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, stood beside him, gazing upon the first rainbow in human history. It was not a promise that the world would remain free of darkness, but it was a promise that mercy would always stand beside judgment. Noah and his family began to settle. The first crops were planted, the first homes built. It was not the towering cities of the old world, but it was a beginning. His sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, became the fathers of all future nations. Shem would be the ancestor of those who would walk in the ways of the Creator, leading to the great line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Japheth and his descendants would spread far, settling in distant lands, growing strong and numerous. Ham, however, carried something darker, a shadow of the old world, a defiance that would lead to great struggles in the years to come. It was Ham's descendants who would one day settle in Babel, where mankind would again defy the heavens. But that was yet to come. For now, the world was at peace. But even in this new beginning, the seeds of the old sins remained. Noah, weary from the burden of survival, planted the first vineyard. The grapes grew rich, their juice sweet, and in his exhaustion, Noah drank too much. He became drunk, lying uncovered in his tent. It was a moment of weakness, a lapse in judgment, but it was enough. Ham, the restless one, the son who carried rebellion in his heart, saw his father's shame. And instead of turning away, instead of honoring his father, he mocked him. Shem and Japheth, horrified, took a garment and walked backward into the tent, covering their father without looking upon his disgrace. When Noah awoke, he knew what had happened, and he cursed Ham's lineage. Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves shall he be to his brothers. It was not Ham himself who bore the punishment, but his descendants, those who would later build mighty, wicked nations. Egypt, Babylon, the Canaanites, those who would rise against the people of the Creator. The cycle had begun again. The world had been wiped clean. But sin had survived. As the generations passed, Noah's descendants spread across the earth. Some built great cities, forging civilizations that would one day shape history. Others wandered, becoming nomads, warriors, traders, but all carried the memory of the flood. They knew what had happened, and yet they forgot. The warning of the past faded into legend. The Watchers and the Nephilim became myths. The judgment of the flood was dismissed as a tale of the ancients, and soon mankind would rise again in pride. They would gather in one place. They would build a great city. They would raise a tower to the heavens, and they would challenge the Almighty once more. But that is another story. Noah lived for 350 more years after the flood, watching as the world rebuilt itself. But he never forgot, and neither did those who carried his blood. The flood was not just an act of destruction, it was a reset. A chance for mankind to begin again, to walk in the ways of the Creator. Yet, in every shadow, the echoes of the old world remained. Because history is a cycle, and the world before the flood, the giants, the fallen ones, the darkness that once consumed the earth, was not truly gone. It was waiting for the right moment to rise again. And when it did, the world would face a new kind of judgment. If you've made it this far, you are truly a seeker of knowledge, a keeper of ancient truths. The story of the antediluvian world is one of mystery, power, and judgment. But it is also a lesson, a reminder that history repeats itself, and that the past is never truly lost. If you found this journey through the world before the flood captivating, then you don't want to miss what's coming next. Subscribe now and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the forgotten past, the hidden mysteries, and the stories that shaped our world. Like this video if you want more epic storytelling. Drop a comment below. What do you think happened to the knowledge of the Nephilim? Did some survive? Let's discuss. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this story. This is just the beginning. The past is calling. Will you answer? Subscribe now.